Hello, hello, and welcome to the next latest and greatest webinar on CIS-210, Principles of Computer Programming 1. I am Professor Lusby, and I wanted to do another webinar here on week 4 and what it is exactly that we need to do for this week. Very similar format to uh, previous weeks. I'm getting a lot of good feedback there, so I'm going to continue that format. And right, so I assume at this point everyone is familiar with the classroom, in particular the links at the top, but just in case you've missed any of the previous webinars, they are posted there at the top of the classroom. But everything else should be very familiar to you. The only other super important link, right, is this nice, glorious virtual desktop that GMC has set up for us that has Java and NetBeans installed, and I'm going to be demonstrating how to use that here in just a second in order to accomplish our assignments. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and dive right in here, get down here to week 4. So we're at the hump, right? We're about halfway through the course, and week 4 is a unique one. We are going to be talking about uh, graphics. And this is a little bit misleading, introduction to graphical applications. A lot of times you say that, and a lot of people think you're referencing GUIs or graphical user interfaces, and that's not really the case. If we look at chapter 4 here, well, let's go through this one at a time first. So the overview and objectives for week 4 here is that we want to use the JavaFX graphics package. All right, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to draw using JavaFX, and some students really enjoy the topic this week, and they get to kind of play around with graphics and draw. Other students, not so much. They're not the creative type. But just know that this is really the only week where we're going to do this. All the other assessments outside of this week uh, deal with the core Java fundamentals and how to write these programs, but it is still good knowledge to have, and it does reinforce a lot of what we've learned concerning classes and methods and how to use those particular uh, classes and methods. So, um, anyways, that's what we're talking about. JavaFX, how to draw graphics using JavaFX. Um, all right, so that is the objective, and if we look here, that is in your book. It's in chapter 4. So if we take a look at the textbook here, yeah, even the title says Introduction to Graphical Applications, but you dig a little bit deeper and we see that we're not really talking about uh, forms and buttons and labels. That comes later. Right now, what we're talking about is drawing shapes and text directly to the JavaFX application, maybe even creating some custom shapes. Um, and so, yeah, definitely look over chapter 4, be familiar with its contents before starting this week's assignments. In particular, uh, learning about the graphics coordinate system. If you've never drawn graphics before, you'll see that it's much like what we learned in math class, right? The X and the Y coordinate plane. Where it's a little bit different though is we're used to 0, 0, in math being the bottom left-hand corner. And in fact, it's the top left-hand corner is where 0, 0 goes. And the X here represents, right, the horizontal plane here. And in this particular case, it goes from 0 to 700, but our screen resolutions are much higher than that now. But they're just kind of showing us an example of a smaller screen. And then the second coordinate, or the Y coordinate here, starts here and goes downward to where the bottom coordinate, in this case, is 399 or 400. Um, and yeah, we do need to know how these numbers are laid out, right? And how the screen resolution is employed. Because when we start drawing things, you're going to notice that one way is that we can define these coordinates, right? Where we want to start drawing these things. We can specify those X and Y coordinates. And so you really be aware, right? That 0, 0 starts up here in the top left-hand corner, and then the max X and the max Y are down here in the bottom right-hand corner. All right. The other things are like the drawing shapes and text. Subchapter here gives us a lot of nice methods that we can use in order to draw using what's called the graphics context class, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you here in a second. But yeah, there's lots of methods available. Each method has its own unique signature with unique parameters that need to be passed to it. So for sure, you're going to have to use the textbook, or I guess you could look up JavaFX documentation online. You should see the same results. But yeah, you're going to need to look up the documentation to see what each one of these methods do and how many parameters uh, that it takes. So for sure, make sure that you read over this material before starting the assessments this week. And here's some more methods that can be used. All right, so we know we're dealing with JavaFX graphics. That's the topic for this week. If you click on a supplemental material, you'll see this. And again, some students find this useful. Some students find these links confusing. But either way, always come back to the textbook. And there's other good JavaFX supplemental material online as well. And so if this stuff helps, by all means, dig in. If it doesn't and it confuses you, always come back to the textbook. But this is definitely, optional material. All right. All right. So that's that. So let's talk about the nitty gritty. What is it exactly that we need to do for this week once we've reviewed the textbook and once we are comfortable with the material? We're going to see it's a little bit different. Yes, we still have a discussion forum just like we've had each week. Yes, we still have a programming assignment. But here we're going to start working on the course project. And we're going to do so in increments. And on week 4, and I'll get into this here in a second, you're going to see that we're going to work on the first few requirements of the course project. Right, so we've got an extra assignment here that we need to complete instead of just a programming assignment. And the other thing is too, well, the quiz isn't really a quiz, it's a midterm. And it is a comprehensive midterm. I believe it covers chapters 1 to 4. But again, we'll talk about that more here in a second. So let's just go through these one by one and really discuss each one. So let's take a look at this week 4 discussion forum. And we'll see that it wants us to complete programming activity 1 in chapter 4, and then basically answer these few questions here. All right, so what in the heck do we need to do here for programming activity 1? Well, if we open up our textbook and we look at programming activity 1, which is here, we will see that, and they're pretty vague here, and that is definitely why I'm kind of releasing this webinar a little bit early this week. A lot of students get stuck with all of a sudden they're drawing graphics and using JavaFX. We haven't really done that yet, and even the application here is a little vague, right? That yeah, they want you to draw using a couple of these methods, and then it basically tells you to start out with the code provided. All right, so with that said, how do we go about doing this? Well, first, we launch the remote desktop. All right, go ahead and provide your credentials and log into the desktop. The next thing we are going to want to do is launch NetBeans, right? Double click on NetBeans 8.2 here. This has JavaFX support. And yeah, you should see a screen like this. We should be used to this by now. And of course, we're going to create a new project, right? That's what we always have to do. So we're going to select Java application, just like we always do here. Click on Next. Let's give it a nice descriptive name here. The CIS-210, week 4, and I believe this is the discussion, discussion. We'll go over the assignment in a second. All right, week 4 discussion, nice descriptive name. Leave this as is, this project location, because you have read and write privileges to this spot, so don't change that. Leave this unchecked, and okay, concerning this, also uncheck create main class, because we're going to see that the textbook provides the files for us, so we're going to download those files and import them. All right, so once everything looks like this, go ahead and click on Finish, and we should see a nice new project in our projects window with an empty default package. Perfect. All right, so now where do we get these files that they want us to use? And if you, right, log into the GMC Classroom inside of the virtual desktop. So you're going to want to launch Chrome, all right? And in order to get to the GMC Classroom, type this in manually. The main GMC page and the virtual machine don't play well together. So just type this in. There's going to be a login button over here. Go ahead and click on the login, and then you should get to your main course page. And then go ahead and go into the classroom. And if you scroll down underneath the virtual desktop, you will see here, CIS-210 Programming Assignment Frameworks. All right, we're going to click on that. That should download a file for us. And again, if I'm going too fast, pause the video, get to that spot, and then resume. And then let's go ahead and open up that file. And in here, we'll see source code, chapter 4, bada boom, bada bing, programming activity 1. Now, here, we're only interested in the Java files. We're not interested in the class files. Make sure that you see these two files once you've downloaded and you've gone into the zip file. All right, so we're going to minimize this. We're going to minimize this. We're going to bring NetBeans back up front. All right, and then we're going to pull that file explorer that has our files in it. We are going to highlight both of these. So you can hold the left mouse button down to draw a square, and that'll highlight them. Or I think you can click on the one, hold down Shift, and then click on the other one, and that will highlight both. But for sure, we need both of these files. This is no longer a single file program. All right, we're going to take both of these files. We're going to hold down the left mouse button. We're going to drag them over here on top of the default package of the project we just created. We're going to release the left mouse button, and we will see that it is added these two files for us. So let's take a look at these. And yeah, this is going to be brand new for a lot of you, you know. But for this particular week, we're utilizing something called the JI Graphics Utility class. And the beautiful thing about this class is it sets everything up that we need to do graphics, including the graphics context class that the book talks about that enables us to draw graphics. This is, you know, somebody created this for us that knows JavaFX, especially the graphics context well. The good thing is we can kind of use this as a cookie cutter class. Anytime we want to create graphics using JavaFX, we're going to use this JI Graphics utility. And what this particular class does is remember we were talking about classes and objects, right? So it's going to create a new canvas object. All right, it's going to grab the 2D graphics context and store it in this graphics context variable or object. It's going to create a new group, store it in this root object. It's going to create a new scene for us. And notice that we don't store off the scene, but we do pass it to the stage, right? and this stage is already passed in. Bottom line is all of this is object-oriented design, and somebody's thought through this for us already. We don't really need to worry about this file other than it needs to be in our project. All right, but it's some really cool stuff going on here with several different classes. All right, so for sure we need this guy. And then the second file, the shell graphics application. Okay, this is where, right, put your drawing code here, right? Your graphics code goes here. And notice that because we're using this JavaFX framework, we are actually using this application class that enables us to create a JavaFX application. So things look a little bit different than last week, right? We're used to seeing a main method that where we go in and we put our code. Here, and this applies to a lot of frameworks, right? Think about Android, think about iOS. Basically, main is being called behind the scenes of this JavaFX library that we're importing. And what that main method is, oh, here it is, right here. What that main method is going to do is go ahead and launch that JavaFX library, and that JavaFX library is then going to call start. All right, and sometimes when you start, no pun intended, sometimes when you learn a new framework, you're going to see that, yeah, there's some new events that we need to use, right? And start is one of these JavaFX methods that will basically launch whatever the JavaFX stage is, and then pass us on top of that the graphics context that we need in order to draw. All right. So at the end of the day, if we want to create a JavaFX application that draws graphics, we're going to use this code, we're going to use this code, and then we're going to start putting our drawing code in here. All right, now, a lot of you are going to ask, well, what the heck goes in here? This is all brand new to me. So before this webinar, I went ahead and created an example. All right, I did exactly what I just showed you here. I imported, right, these two Java files. All right, so let's take a look. For sure, here is the JI graphics utility, right? Just exactly like we imported. That hasn't changed. But I did change the name of the original file. What was the original name? The original name was Shell Graphics Application. I changed it to Java Train. All right. And so that's a little bit different. I gave the class a different name. Feel free to, and remember we talked about how to do that, right? If we wanted to give this a different name, I believe we right click, say refactor, and we say rename. Did you see that? Rename. And we can just say, call it Java Train instead. Apply rename on comments, hit refactor, and now it's renamed everything to Java Train. All right, but I guess it's up to you. Whatever you want to call this second file that actually creates your drawing is completely up to you. I think for your assignment, you're supposed to draw a house, so maybe call it Java House. I don't know if in the requirements it forces us to call it anything, but all right. So we have this new file that is going to do the drawing for us. It extends that same JavaFX application. All of this code, I guess where I'm going with this, all of this code has already been done, right, for us. The only thing that we needed to do for the discussion was add code here. And in fact, for your assignment, is just add code here. So you're going to start with these two files, keep all the same code, and then come in here and you can add all of this nice, wonderful code that draws. All right. It's completely up to you what you want to draw. Some students just draw a couple of ovals just to see how things work. But for sure, and there's a couple of good examples in your textbook as well. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? We look down here, right? This is all kind of the normal template. And then here is some good examples of how to use that graphics context and all the methods defined up above in order to do things like draw a red line, draw a random color, draw a black line. So there's a bunch of good examples in the book, right? Don't be afraid to try these things out. I'm presenting an example to you right here. That's where we're drawing a train. So if we run this, right, there's no graphic, there's no errors. I don't know, something silly like this. All right, and so for the discussion, as long as you can get something when you run this drawn, that was kind of the whole key of this particular discussion problem. All right, so notice that, yeah, it takes quite a few lines of code to draw all the different lines, especially if you're drawing a choo-choo train. All right, but at the end of the day, for sure, you need to start out with this file that you don't change, right? You downloaded it from the textbook activity frameworks in the classroom. And you definitely want to start out with a framework that looks like this, where you're extending the application. You have a start method that grabs the context, and you've got a main method. And that was also provided by the textbook for us. The only thing that you need to change is the code that goes here. And once you add that code, then when you run it, you shouldn't see any errors. You should see an application pop up, and you should see whatever shapes it is that you've drawn. All right. So that was kind of the idea behind the week 4 discussion here. Answer those few questions. A lot of some of you have already started, and I appreciate that. All right. All right. What else do we need to do for this week? Like I said, this week's a little bit interesting compared to other weeks. Let's talk about the week 4 programming assignment. Week 4 programming assignment. Week 4 programming assignment wants us to write a program that will draw a house with 2 windows, a door, and a roof using this wonderful JavaFX graphics framework. Also wants us to add a label to the top of the drawing, right, with your name and a title in the application. They do want us to call it house blueprint .java, at least that second file. And that's basically all they give us. So how do we go about doing this? Well, we're going to go to the remote desktop, right? We are going to launch NetBeans. We are going to create a new project, new Java application. Give it a nice descriptive name. This week 4 assignment. All right, and here again, I would say leave this as is, leave this unchecked, and even here, normally we are starting code from scratch and we select this for the assignment. I say, at least for this week, don't check this and let's import those files that the textbook gave us. Let's start from there. All right. So leave this unchecked, leave this unchecked. Go ahead and click on finish here. And you should have an empty project. We do. Go back to those files, right, that we just downloaded from the classroom for programming activity 1, right? These are the files we started out with for the discussion. Let's drag and drop those into our project. All right. JI graphics utility, yeah, we need this, but we don't need to change anything in here. Leave that as is. We've got a shell graphics application. All right. That looks good. But they do want us to name it, oh my gosh, what do they want us to call it again? House blueprint.java. So let's refactor and rename this. Let's say refactor, rename. Let's call this house blueprint. Apply rename, hit refactor. All right, so now we have a house blueprint.java. And now you can go in and add your, right, draw your house here. Draw your house here. And add some code, right, that draws, well, what are the minimum requirements here? Draw a house, so a rectangle. You got two windows, so 2 rectangles inside of the house. A door, we've got another rectangle for the door. And a roof, either you have to draw a triangle or I guess you could use a couple lines there. And then here, add a label to the top of your drawing with your name. Well, remember that in here, in the discussion that I just showed you, for the Java train, notice that it is drawing some text. All right. And what it's referencing there is, where is it? Here, fill text. There is a fill text command where you specify the X and the Y coordinate, and you specify what it is that you want the text to be. All right. So it is expecting you to use this fill text command. Somewhere on, because if we run this as is right now, right, this is a good gut check. Have I set up my project properly here? If we run this right now, this is what you'll see, an amazing blank slate. All right. So, how do you go about doing this? Well, for sure, you want to reference these examples in the book, right? Use that graphics context that they give you, and run a bunch of these commands to draw your house. And you're going to see it is a little bit of a trial and error when you're drawing, I guess, unless you bust out the graph paper, which may not be a bad idea, actually, and really methodically figure out what those coordinates are. But yeah, I would say, okay, start with the main house, right? The main rectangle of the house. Get that drawn properly first, then add the windows, right? Or a window. Make sure that's drawn properly first, then add the next window. Make sure that's, so you're constantly adding code, running, adding code, running, adding code, running. It is a bit of a time-consuming process, but welcome to the wonderful world of graphics. All right, it's not a quick thing at all. All right, and some of you are going to really enjoy this, and some of you are going to go, this is crazy. But either way, it's the assignment. All right, and you can make this as fancy as you want, or you can make this as simplistic as you want, as long as you meet, well, where'd it go? These requirements here, right? House with 2 windows, a door, and a roof, and then you've got some sort of text with your name and title inside of that, inside of the application. I'm happy. All right. What else? Yeah, that's really all the guidance I can give you here without providing the solution. So just make sure to start with the files that they gave us for programming activity 1. Import both of those files, and then here inside of start, underneath of the graphics context line of code, this is where you're going to add your code to draw. All right. So that's that concerning the programming assignment. What else do we need to do for the week? Aha. Wait a second. Let me back up a second. I'm still getting a lot of questions concerning the results document. All right. The idea behind this results document is that I want a single document that has everything in it, including your code, including the code running, including the timestamp. So let's go over. All right. So I've created this nice, wonderful programming assignment. I've drawn my pretty house. What does this results document need to look like? So what I did was I opened up the Microsoft Word application. And here is, and eventually at some point, maybe we'll add this to the classroom, the assignment description. What I want to see is, number one, be very specific at the top and put what class, put which assignment, right? Put your name, put the date, right? We should be practicing how to create good professional documentation at this point. All right. Please make it look like a real assignment submission. All right. So a nice header up here that's nice and descriptive. Now what you're going to notice here is that in this assignment, there's two files. All right. Let's go back to NetBeans. We've got JI Graphics Utility. We've got Java Train. Well, at least for the discussion. For your assignment, you have, what do we call it again? House Blueprint. All right. But either way, you've got two files. So how do I put these two files inside of the Word document? Well, let's call out the one file name, JI Graphics Utility.java. And let's call out the other one, which, at least for the discussion, no, I don't want to confuse you here. I'm going to say House Blueprint.java. And underneath of it, I'm going to come into NetBeans, grab the JI Graphics utility, Control A, Control C, and I come down back to the Word document and put it here, just like this, Control V or paste. I want to see the code, not screenshots of the code, please, the actual code itself. All right, and then down here, House Blueprint.java. I'm going to go here. Let's pretend this is House Blueprint. I'm going to do Control A, grab all the code, Control C, copy, go to Word, and hit paste. All right, here's all the nice, wonderful code for House Blueprint. All right, and then at the bottom here, underneath of all the code, maybe we bold this a little bit just so that we can see what in the heck we're looking at. Oops, Control B. All right, so here's all the nice code, and then at the bottom is a section called screenshots. And here, I want you to, go into NetBeans here and run it. And yeah, take a screenshot. Again, I don't really care about any of that. I care about this, and I care about this timestamp down here. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to come up here and say, what's it called? The snipping tool. And in the mode, just say full screen snip. Bada boom, bada bing, and grab the whole full screen. I'm going to say copy. And there are some shortcut keys that you can use to do that. But if you don't know about that, use the snipping tool and say full screen snip. And then come back here to your Word document and go bada boom, bada bing. Here is the screenshot. And then I zoom in to see everything. You can adjust the margins, whatever. As long as I can zoom in, even if it's a little small there, I can zoom in and see all this. Yeah, I'm happy. All right. Um, that's what I'm expecting here. Please, for your results document, create a document that looks like this. Nice professional document. List the code at the bottom. Here's the screenshots. Um, and for this particular application, we just, there's only one flow. There's only one screenshot that I need. And that's show me this application that has the drawing inside of it, whatever your drawing is. All right. So that only for you, it's going to be the house. It's not going to be the train. Please don't include the train code. Okay. Create your nice pretty house and copy and paste your code in here, and then take a screenshot of the house application. All right. So that is what I would like to see when you turn in your results document, and then include the Java files on the side, just in case I have any questions about that results document. I've got some files I can fall back on, just in case. But I would love it if it's just this nice, wonderful document that has everything in it, and I just look at that and I'm happy and I move on. All right. All right. So let's talk about, okay, enough about the programming assignment. We've talked about that at length, and I showed you what the results document should look like. Let's talk about the next piece, which is this CIS-210 project, which should probably be called course project. And all the requirements to the course project are listed at the top of the classroom, but the idea is let's break this project down into manageable pieces. So when you click on CIS-210 project part 1, what you're going to see here is that it for this week 4, we only need to accomplish the first 3 requirements here, not all of them. And these first 3 requirements want us to request the user's name and then format that name to where we capitalize the first letter and we make all remaining characters lowercase, removing any spaces or special characters. So we got to do some string formatting here. And then once we have a program that can do that, then we output whatever that the final name is to the console. So for instance, if the user puts in David, or we're going to see David with capital D, all lowercase. If the user puts in some weird uppercase, lowercase name, and even here is one N, but here's 2 N's. But you get the gist, right? Uppercase here, all lowercase. If the user types in some spaces and special characters, well, your code's smart enough to remove those and then just keep all the valid characters, only capitalizing the first one. So for sure, I would like to see at least these 3 tests run once you come up with your solution. So this is a case where you will need to run your program 3 times at a minimum and input these 3 different values, and hopefully, well, for full credit, your output needs to look like this, at least for these 3 values. All right, so how do we go about completing this part, CIS-210 course project? Well, we're going to go to the remote desktop again. We're going to launch NetBeans, create a new project. And deja vu. Java application, give it a nice descriptive name. Let's call it course project. Leave that as is, leave this unchecked. Now here, yeah, we do want to create the main class because we are starting from scratch here. There's no files that we can import. And I would just get rid of all this additional package information in the front just to keep things simple. And okay, all that looks good. Let's click on finish. And bada boom, bada bing, we have a new project that has created the Java file for us with a brand new class that has a main method. All right, so this is more along the lines of what we've done every week up until this point. And again, I usually like to take out the standard comments and then add my own. And if you do that, well, I did it before the webinar here. Here's what I came up with for the week 4 course project, and I did exactly what I just showed you, right? Create the new project, create the new class. Yeah, again, please add a header at the top, letting me know what class, who you are, what's the date, what is the exact assignment here, and yeah, some comments kind of explaining what this class is and why in the heck we have this main method. It's our starting point of the program. And this is a course project, so I can't give too much guidance here because we want to know what it is that you know at week 4 here, and you should be able to complete. Right here. Here's the 3 requirements from the course project, and at least I guess what I did here was this first requirement deals with input. The second requirement deals with processing that input. This third requirement deals with outputting, whatever that your final version of the name is. All right. And all I can say is that use your previous assignments as guidance. Definitely last week, we talked about strings and all the nice, wonderful methods that are available with strings. That could definitely help us out here. And do the best you can. I can only provide minimal guidance on the course project because this is kind of our gut check to see where everybody is. All right. And then once you run it, and I'm just going to do something silly here, just so that I can run it. All right, because eventually you're going to output whatever that name is to the console. So you're going to use, I'll give you that. You're going to use the print line method. All right, what do you need to turn in? So once you verify that it runs and there's no syntax errors and you meet all the requirements, right, you should have console output down here. And again, the reason I bring this up is, okay, well, you need a results document, right, for this week 4 course project. What does that results document need to look like? Well, here's a template that I created for the course project. And again, please, right, put your class, assignment, author, information, date at the top, and then your file name. Did they tell us what the file name had to be here? No. That's the zip file. So it can be, I guess, whatever you like here. Well, what the heck name did I use? I used week 4 course project. All right, so in the results document, I'll put week 4 course project.java because that is the name of this file. And notice that this particular project is only one file. So we're going to copy, Control A, Control C, or if you want, you can highlight everything like this, right click and say copy, it's up to you. And then we're going to go to the Word document and paste that nice, wonderful code, right, directly underneath of the file name. And then underneath of here, we need screenshots, right, of the program running. Well, what the heck is that? Well, when you run your application, you should see good output down here. But notice that you're going to make sure to use these 3 input values. You're going to need to run the program 3 times and enter at least these 3 different names. Maybe there's more. If in industry, you want to test with as many values that you can until you feel comfortable that your code has been thoroughly tested. These are just 3 values. I don't know if you can think of a couple of other names that might test it out well, please use those. But my point is, every time you run it, for each one of those names, you're going to need to do a screenshot, right? You're going to go to the snipping tool, say, what is it? Mode, Where'd it go? Oh, new. You have to go new, full screen snip, and then copy, and then put it into your Word document. But I would expect to see at least 3 tests here, right? Test, screenshot, number 1, right? With whatever that first name is. And then you're going to have at least 2 others behind this. Right? You're going to have test screenshot number 2 with whatever that second name is. You're going to have test screenshot number 3 with whatever that third name is. And I'm going to look at this and I'm going to look at this. Right? The code, when I look at the code, I'm looking at this. So don't worry about screenshots of the code. I don't care about that. I'm looking at the output. I'm looking at the time and date. Looking at the output. I'm looking at the time and date. All right. So that's what I mean by 100% code coverage, is that you need to run the code as many times as necessary to test it properly, thoroughly, right? And the requirements say, well, oh yeah, you need to capitalize the first name or the first letter. You need to make all the other characters lowercase, right? You need to remove spaces and special characters. So you need a few different values to properly test your program to make sure that it can do all of that. Don't just test it with this. Oh, well, my program says, David, woohoo, I'm done, ship it. No. We need to make sure all requirements are met, not just capitalizing and making all the others lowercase, right? What if it looks like this? What if it looks like this? All right. So for sure, when you create your results document here for the week 4 course project, I want to see several screenshots, and each screenshot should be testing, you know, what's provided here at a minimum. All right, what else? What else? I think that is basically, yeah, here's all this. I think that's, the other big thing, right? So we talked about this. Oh yeah, there's a midterm. Let's take a look at the midterm details. So you got quite a bit of work to do this week. Please start early. That's why I'm posting this webinar early. And if you need help, email me. But this midterm covers chapters 1 to 4, so it is comprehensive, at least the first 4 chapters. And you're going to have 30 questions. You're going to have 30 questions. It looks like 6 open response questions, right? 24 multiple choice, 6 open response. You have 90 minutes to take the exam. All right, must be completed once it's started. All right. If you go over your time limit, it's going to be automatically submitted. So for sure, you want to be comfortable and ready for it. You have only 1 attempt. Yeah, lots of good stuff going on here in week 4. Make sure you allocate enough time for this midterm exam, right? It's quite a bit more involved than your previous quizzes for the previous weeks. And not only that, right, we've got this other project to do, and we've got this programming assignment. All right, well, I hope that, I feel like I've covered everything for week 4. Please continue to leave me feedback, either comments, liking the video, whatever, email me directly. That's how I make these videos better. But we're definitely getting into some fun stuff now with JavaFX, and things are only going to get more fun after this point. Okay, so have a great rest of your week, and let me know if I can help.